Hello, this is Michael with Sac City Property Management. I wanted to give a quick update on my Property Manager program. So let's open up the application. And it's going to default to our last file, and we could change it to a backup file or a test file if we wanted, but let's enter the program. And then we need to log in. And there it comes up to a splash screen, and then we can go to the main menu. So let's first set up a new client. So it'll be a client, bring up his address, and put in his name. Larry Landlord, that looks good to me. Excuse me. And it's got an application name, which must be unique, and then a group name for that contract group. So let's go ahead and set that up. And then I have a bill to client, which is generally set to no. I could toggle to yes if I want to create a billing cycle for him, but generally I just bill on the projects and the properties. So let's go ahead and add that. And what it did is it drops all the information down here so we know that it's been successful, which is the group name, the application name, and the folder and directory that it created for us. So let's go ahead and close that. Now let's add a property for the client. So go to properties, go to new, and we need to select the client, which would be Larry. Property type, let's say it's an apartment, 5 units, perfect. Bring up an address, Elm Street, looks good to me. And we want to create a directory. The answer is going to be yes, and that'll be underneath the landlord. So let's go ahead and set that up. And again, it shows us that it's set it up for us, so that's perfect. So let's close that and close that. Now what we want to do is we want to add the units for that. So let's go ahead and go there, and we want to go new. We want to select the property or the building, which is Elm Street, good. And then we want to pick an address for that, and it does that. And it automatically defaults with the name for us, and then we can put in the unit number or name or whatever we want to change it. Let's go unit number 1 and set that up, and we can just as quickly add in a bunch of them here. Okay, there, we just added 5 apartments and set them up. Close, close. If we actually go to the units, we can look, there's the 5 units, we can open up any one of them. It just set up a generic template for it, gave us a unit name, the address, the building that it's associated with, and then we could add in other stuff later, which is air conditioner filters, laundry hookups, what appliances are in it, what kind of paint, what size curtains, all that can be tracked. So anyways, that's the unit there, and it's all set up so that we can close that. Now let's go ahead and add a tenant. So let's do a quick add, and we want to select a tenant. Now we need to select his apartment that he lives in, let's say Elm Street number 1, and his current rent would be $650. And Joe tenant. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to put the unit number first and then the tenant's name as a group name for the contract, and then his application name when I look at the tenant is just his name, is how I like to do that. And then if we like how that looks, we can add it. If not, we could tweak it. So let's go ahead and add that, and we've set up a client, or a tenant I should say. So let's close that. We can go to our tenant contracts, and I forgot to update these earlier. Let me do that real quick. And 800. So anyways, here's Joe Tenant, and it's already got the rent in there. We can pull up his form. It's got his current rent. We could set his deposit now if we wanted to, and we can set his lease type, what his late fee is, his return check fee. All those things could be set up automatically. So anyways, cool. But let's go ahead and add his wife in here while we're here. So Jane, and last name Tenant as well, and we can add her, and done. close, and you can see that it added Jane Tenant there in the tenant list, so that's great. So let's close that and close. So anyways, now what we want to do is everything's set up, life is good. Let's go ahead and run the rent roll for the month. Here's a list of the active tenants. Here's their rents, the total rent roll. All we need to do is select a date, and let's set it for the first of the month. And then let's run the rent roll. Boom. So it created tenant charges, created invoices to apply the tenant charges to, and then it showed us a list of the invoices, so we know that everything worked out okay. And here's the 3 invoices for the 3 tenants. Life is good. So let's go ahead and close that. And close that. So now that we've done the rent roll, we can bring in cash for the month. So let's go to our image manager, because everything's handled by images, and do that. So let's go ahead and quickly bring in a couple rent checks to process. Let's select the first one. And a second one. And a third one real quick. Okay, so let's just post 3 rents real fast just to see how it is. Let's go back to that first one. And that's from Irma Gonzalez. The date on that's the 4th. And we can just go down here. We can filter this quite a bit. So we can say that we're looking for tenants. And then on the tenants, we can go Irma Gonzalez there, and it automatically puts in the default tenant name. The check amount we need to put in $362.50, and this is a payment. Once we put that in, it's going to automatically create the directory that this is going to. It's going to create the note, and it's going to create a file name for us. So that's all done automatically. If we like everything, we can save the file, and it saved the image. And put it away, so that's all great. Once that's done, we can go over and we can post the payment. Okay, so it brings over most of that information. The only thing we have to do is what type of funds. It was a check, and then the check number is 2364. Once that's done, we can save the record, and then we can go ahead and pay the invoice there. And what it does is it brings the amount here, applies it to the invoice, lets us know that there's $278.50 left on that invoice. So anyways, we can go ahead and once that's done, if we try and close it without saving it, it's going to give us a warning, so that's good. Do we want to continue? No. Want to pay that invoice first and then close. Okay, cool. And let's go ahead and do that last one, which was Joe Tenant. The date on there is the 5th. And again, we can just go straight to his name if it's a small list, Joe Tenant. The amount is $650. It's a payment. And again, it copied all that stuff over for us, so that's great. And we can save the record, we can post it, and if we leave any of these fields blank, it's going to give us a warning, which is nice. So we can't really screw up the data. There's a lot of error checking going on, but so there's that. So let's say it's a check. Again, put in the check number, and then save the record. Now we can pay the invoice, select the invoice to pay. It gives us a 0 balance. We can pay the invoice and then close, and that's done. So we can close that, close that. If we go to the invoice list again, what it's going to do is it's going to show us that Irma has a balance on that invoice, so we know that we need to get rent from her. So let's close that, and then we can also go over to our tenant balance form here, and here's all the charges, here's all the payments that we've received, and so that's all there. And if we wanted to see just the information on Irma, we could filter that out very easily, and we've got a payment and her rent charge, and so that's it. Anyways, that's where I'm at, and later we can talk over doing deposits and other billing. So thank you much. Bye bye.